just didn't think a grown man could fall in love with an inanimate object, but I am desperately in love with her.
He won't engage. He'll just say, "Did you mean to lift off there?" When you've got a corner.
Well, I don't give a fuck. I just think they're great.
Hello and welcome to the Car Podcast with Chris Harris and his friends. At least two of us are ill. One of us hasn't been to bed. The other one's got to celebrate his offspring's birthday. One of us appears to be in very good health. We've got to be quite quick tonight. Everyone's running around, but we love you so much we wouldn't miss a single week. First of all, we're going to have a little general catch-up on our week in cars. I love doing this. Manish, what have you driven this week?
Well, I've sat in it.
Yes!
I haven't driven it. You bastard, Neil. For those listening... I said no. For those on the radio, Neil's actually got a button he just presses and it just says no.
These are my CEO buttons.
Can I, rather than driving something, can I just say that I went to go and visit Lola at O'Rourke's, and she is now somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks from being complete. And I just didn't think a grown man could fall in love with an inanimate object, but I am desperately in love with her. The work they've done. Well, exactly. Something really lovely happened this week. It will all be revealed at some point in this pod, but there's a tiny modification that I've made to her that has something to do, I would argue, with her lineage. The man who was responsible for Ferrari at the time that Lola was conceived has allowed me to use a little family heirloom, and it's going to be placed on her dashboard. And I held it in my hands last week, and I handed it over, and I have to say, as I said, 2 to 3 weeks from now, you will see Lola complete.
That's good.
Lola, so Luca gave you a nodding dog air freshener for the top of the dashboard.
Alex, his Burmese, just this massive nodding dog doing this.
This is probably one for my other podcast, Pedantry Today.
Yes.
But it's been ready in 3 weeks, the last sort of month. I don't like to be a pedant.
Okay, but this time I'm telling
it really
you.
is.
AJ's given me a date. He said either the 24th of February or between the 3rd and the 5th of March. Okay?
Yeah, they're good.
We need to plan a bit of, go mad in Cornwall. Okay,
We need to do that, don't we? Yeah.
We are going to do this. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think also perfection takes time. I think there's a weird understanding in the car world that if you have your car serviced and it's 10 minutes late when you get there to pick it up, you're not happy. That's a menial job. But if you're invested in some nuts rebuild or retrim, you become so much more relaxed about when it's going to be ready, because you know the result's going to be spectacular. And also, you know, you're into so much money.
And you're delaying payments. Delaying
Neil Clifford, what's happened to you this week in cars? We've only got an hour.
Yeah. I've had two good ones, actually. I was driving home in my Subaru, and then I had to do an urgent Zoom call, worky, boring thing. And then I thought, shit, where am I going to do it? I can't do it in my car. I'm near Brent Cross. I'm going to go into the car park in Brent Cross. But then, when I was near Brent Cross, a bus driver was saying, mate, look at your car. So I pulled over in a petrol station, completely flat rear tyre. You know when they're really so flat?
Yeah.
And
even you'd notice.
Yes. And I had seven minutes or something to this Zoom call. And I thought, shit, in the petrol station. And then you've got to pay like £1.50 now, haven't you? For have like 20 seconds of air. We need to talk about this complete rip-off of air, £1.50. Did my £1.50, my little Apple Pay, paid it. It was so flat. It was so flat, and I think the valve was knackered. I couldn't pump it up. So that was 3 minutes. And then I thought, shit, I've got 4 minutes to go. Out of the petrol station with a flat tyre, across, turn left at the bagel shop in Golders Green or wherever I was, stuck it down a bloody no entry road, parked in just outside someone's house, did the call, and then I thought, bollocks, I've got no idea what I'm going to do now, and just left the car. The car's still there. But then there's a slight subplot to it, because then I thought, I'm going to be clever. I went home. I got a guy that I know, a cabbie, came and picked me up, took me home, dumped the car. And then I thought, right, the next day I'm going to be really clever. He's going to drop me. We're going to go there 6 a.m. before my little Salvino and tennis, and we're going to download the app from the breakdown company, which cannot be mentioned which one it is. But I downloaded the app, which requires some enhancement, let's say. So I got there with the app. But you look at the app and you can't put in your address. You can only use the app from where you are with the car.
Yeah.
Or home. It's where you are with the car or home. Fair enough. Got to the car at 6:10, clicked on the app, thought, right, they're now on their way, rang them and said, please, would you not come now? Because actually I can't be there because I'm doing something else, playing tennis and having a coffee. I'll be back at 7:30. Did all that. Went back to the car, waited at the car at 7:30. Thought, I'm a mastermind here. This is really working. And then my wife rings me at 7:30. The AA man's here.
At home.
And he'd fucking gone home, hadn't he? Or I'd done the app wrong, because this app is quite complicated. So then the AA man is 37 miles away at my house. I'm there with the car with the flat battery in my tennis gear. Flat battery, flat tyre. So I abandoned that. Right, plan B, that's gone wrong. The car is still there.
I've got an answer for you. This is unbelievable. I've got an answer for you.
Yes. What is it?
I've got a new gadget. You guess what it is?
A pump.
Hang on. Turn the bloody thing on.
Yes.
The
thing is,
everything.
You carry that around?
No. Well, can I just give you the third version of this story? So then, next day, which was yesterday, my lovely friend Hamid, I said, go to the car, take my air pump. You can take my air pump. I'm sure it's only a slow puncher. I'm sure if you pump it up, it'll be fine. He went there, plugged it in, 12 volts, cigarette lighter, pumped it up, 32. Here we go. He said, take it up. Within a minute, it was back to 2. So I've got a proper puncher. So I'm buggered. So we've had 3 attempts of rescuing the T25 Litchfield Subaru. It is still in Golders Green.
Well, for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe not forever.
This was pre-recorded, this podcast, so the car might have been removed by now.
Right.
No, I've got a plan D tomorrow. We're going to rescue it tomorrow.
We can go with the trailer.
No. We've got to fix. We're going to do it tomorrow. So that's the week of Subaru punches.
I love it. The A-man goes to the wrong address.
Yeah.
Also, an app. If there's a situation where you realise how good to be able to phone someone and for them to reassure you on the phone, what's the value of a telephone call and someone going, "Don't worry about it, we're there in a minute."
Yeah, apps and
just around the corner.
Apps and chatbots, shit.
Yeah.
Chris Cooper, how's your week in cars been?
All chatbots are rubbish.
They are.
All chatbots everywhere are rubbish, because the only way they measure them is the number of people in the call centre. They don't actually measure our blood pressure. So I've got a new gadget, which you've already seen. It's one of these battery powered. I can't tell you the fun I've had with that.
Can you describe what it is for those of us that can't see it?
It's a handheld, mobile, big battery powered, Makita branded. Other brands are available, but I love this one.
Yeah.
It's got a light on the front and everything. When we were racing in Zandvoort a couple of years ago, one of the race teams had this. I thought that would be a nice thing to have in the car in case you get a little slow puncture.
Yeah.
So I've got a slow puncture on one of my cars. And I thought, we've got an airline in the farm, but you can't get the car around there. It'd be nice to just do it where it is rather than a hand pump or whatever. So I got one of these on Amazon.
What is the brand name? Because most of the Amazon are those made-up brand names.
No, it's Makita, proper brand.
Oh, it's a good one.
It's a good one. Yeah, well, the race team had it, and I thought they won't be mucking about.
250. How much was that? 200 quid?
No, it's about 180 quid, something like that. Yeah, about 180 quid. It might be about 170. I'll have to check. We'll check if it's not right. So I had a fantastic Sunday, just going around all of the cars on the farm, even the ones that weren't mine, just plugging it in. You look up I was looking up the pressure of somebody's Isuzu twin cab. Chris, who works on the farm's got one, and I thought it's locked. I can't see it. There wasn't inside often they're inside the fuel flap, aren't they? The tire pressures.
Yes.
I couldn't find it. So I looked it up and I thought, I'll just check his tyres, because you can plug it in and it's got a lovely little digital gauge
look
there.
at that.
And you can like go up and down, and then you plug it on, it like latches on, and then you just do it away. It was brilliant. So everyone's got really, really nicely pumped up tyres. My little red tractor, which has been a bit ignored over the winter, I went into its shed on Sunday. One of its Ickle front tyres was really, like a bit like your Subaru. And I thought, don't worry, Ickle red tractor. I'll take care of you. I can pump it up. Took about 2 hours.
Is it
Lots of air.
rechargeable battery? It's a rechargeable battery thing. That
This lasted. It lasted.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
sure
good.
I did, but I thought there's actually quite a lot of air in a tractor tyre, even a little front one on a little red tractor. So I had a lovely time with my new gadget. One other thing to mention, the boys and I, Finn and Cam and I, went to Goodwood on Saturday, the first track day of the year. First time on track. Lots of other like-minded souls at Goodwood. Very wet and slippery day. We'll put a picture on the thing of one of the boys quite sideways, getting it adjusted to go through Woodcote in a very slippery day. But isn't it nice to start the year with a proper bit of motoring? And Goodwood's lovely. We went to the kennels afterwards for a brunch. It was just everything in the world was lovely. And then on Sunday,
What car were you in?
we were in
What
our
car?
very old 1963 FIA Racing Mini. So a bit of a shakedown, bit of a play.
Nice.
It was lovely. And yeah, it was just, but I'm so pleased with I would have come all the way to Golders Green with this to
Yes.
help. So FYI, everybody, don't hesitate to ask me, and I'll be around with my thing.
It reminds me of Christmas Day. I miss this with my kids. When one of the kids has been given a present which they want to insert into every possible situation for the next 2 days.
Yes.
Like, I've got a tape measure. Don't worry, Daddy, I can measure that.
I can measure that.
It doesn't really need measuring. Just lurking on hand to offer that hand.
That's
I
me.
love that. So yeah, I've had a good busy week with cars as usual. It's a car I've never really put a picture up on social media. I don't think. I've got a 458 Spider that I bought last summer, and I was planning to do a big trip in it. I'm not sure I am now, but I thought I'd give it a little February health check. So I'm starting a middle-aged Ferrari after 4 months is always a bit. Yeah, Chris Cooper's crossing his fingers because you never know. This is young enough to have complicated ECUs, but old enough to be shit. So I conditioned the battery. That's the big problem. They hate low voltage.
Yeah.
So battery conditioner was on.
Which conditioner do you use?
I think
C-Tech?
It's the Ferrari one and underneath the.
Yeah, that is whatever
Yeah,
one they
okay.
give you.
Yeah.
And it's a really good system. It clicks into the footwell with the little plug. I didn't take the plug out, so I got that battery warning on the dash, which made me go, "Oh God, it's broken," but it wasn't. Started up, all good. Drove it to my local Ferrari shed in Swindon, and they plugged it in. Didn't love it, Swindon, plugged it in, and thought it's all good. And I changed a wheel and a tyre, and then I left it overnight in London town. And went to get it this morning, and I got the full set of warning lights like you do. But my favourite one is it just says, it's a bit like a sort of Clueso movie. It says, catalytic converter temperatures do not compute or something. It has a total brain fart.
It's just made up.
It starts running like an especially shit old two-stroke, and then you're done. So yes, that was a bit of a lava. I've driven a Singer Porsche for 500 miles, what they call the Classic, which remains.
What colour is it?
It's dark blue, and I think for me, that's my £1 million in a car. You can keep anything else. Someone on this podcast might have one, and that's the best car you own. I think it's everything in a car. It's as special as a classic car. It's a modern car. You could just daily it. It's an amazing thing. I've just had the new 992 GTS Targa delivered. I drive that tomorrow. Most of all, I'm back busy and enjoying my cars again, and I absolutely love that. It's been really, really good getting back involved. And the old Valkyrie video, go and watch that. We need to get the numbers up. Come on, get the numbers up.
Yes,
That is
great.
a very, very good little video.
That's
Quite a
smashing
scary
around there.
video.
So let's move on now to funniest car story. I'm putting everyone under pressure here because when you try and tell people to be funny, they're usually not. Let's go first with drum roll, Chris Cooper.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
He's also
And
led
he's just
it.
buggered off.
Exactly. What are you doing? Come back.
I could tell. I'm not sure I've got a funny one, but I could tell the joke. I think we've all heard the joke. If we don't like the joke, we can edit it out in a moment, and then we can come back in with everyone laughing, and everyone wonder what it was.
Yeah.
So I'll do the joke, okay? Elon Musk can't be a Nazi. The Nazis made really good cars. Everyone laugh now. Ha ha ha.
Right.
The producer just put his picture on screen. I
Yeah.
think that's a warning. We'll cut that one out.
This
Can I
is
tell you, I've got a great...
It's in a drone that's got Starlink written on it. It's hovering very.
Actually, I'm on
Listen, outside
Starlink,
the
so if I
window.
disappear and you never see me again, that's why. Can I tell you? Actually, I've got...
Chris, though, before you move on, you ought to credit the joke to Stephen Fry.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Stephen Fry
it's not
back.
my joke, it's Stephen Fry.
It's a
Very
great
good
joke.
manage. Yeah.
There's a cyber truck. There's a really good podcast that's like ours but a lot better in LA, and they were talking about there's the cyber truck drivers because there's too many of the other ones. You can't abuse everyone on the road, basically in California and Los Angeles. But if you're a cyber truck driver, there is abuse going on by people maybe that aren't Republican voters in California, abusing people with their hands in different signals. If you see a Cybertruck, there's quite a funny drama going on over there at the minute on that.
Yeah. No comment.
Yeah.
Right, Chris Cooper. Are you done with your? That's your funny car story.
Let's see what the audience thinks, or the producer thinks.
Right. Manish,
Elon.
give me a funny car story.
Okay, well, this is a classic Manish funny car story. It has a drop name and very little to do with cars, okay? Just to keep
That's a level of self-awareness I didn't know you had.
Amazing.
I try. So here's the thing. Being a doctor is a very satisfying thing. It's a lovely thing to do, okay? The one thing about being a doctor is it's not particularly glamorous. I mean, you have a nice middle-class job, you feel quite self-satisfied with your work. So whenever I get a chance to do something vaguely glamorous with a doctor friend, I always take a doctor friend if there's something glamorous. So a few years ago, British Grand Prix, I've got a really close friend called James. He's the most amazing general surgeon. He's a concert pianist, and he's just got great hands. He's just a great guy, and I'm his boy's godfather, and I love James so much. So I took him to the British Grand Prix, and so I can't remember, it's about a decade ago. Sunday, he is just having a ball. Because obviously I know quite a few people, and we're all, hello, we go into various team motorhomes, and he just can't believe it. He just can't believe how enjoyable the day is. Bruno Senna sits with us in the Renault motorhome, because Bruno just driven for Renault. He does the whole commentary on the race. And James is going, this is just bloody unreal. This is unreal. So the next level of unreality comes when the race is over. We're walking down the paddock, and we bump into Hugh Grant. And Hugh goes, oh, hi, Manish, how are you? And I said, I'm really well here. How are you? And he said, do you want to come for a drink in Red Bull? And James like, that's Hugh Grant. And I said, yeah, it's Hugh Grant. You know, we knew Hugh a little bit from working title Perry Senna. Anyway, we go up into the Red Bull motorhome to the cordoned off area at the top. And Hugh goes, you know Alistair, don't you? And it's Alistair Cook, the England captain at the time. And James was like, this is really turning into a bit of a surreal day for an NHS doctor. Now, James had done some major surgery on someone earlier that week, on Tuesday, and all his patients were fine. Otherwise, he would never have come to the British Grand Prix. And he's very good about drinking, you know, didn't have a drink. I think he might have had a glass of wine. And Hugh goes off to go and get us around, actually after asking James, he says, are you any good at doing piles? And James was like, not bad. And he said, if I have a problem with my piles, I'll come and see you. So it is all very surreal. So Hugh goes off to get us some drinks, and James gets the call from the hospital that he really doesn't want to get. And it's a sister at the hospital, and she says, one of your patients, the one you did the big surgery on Tuesday, I think you ought to come and have a look at him. It's not an emergency, but it would be good if you could see him in the next couple of hours. So James goes, British Grand Prix has ended. We all know what the traffic is like at the end of the British Grand Prix. So our hosts were actually Marussia at the time. So I gave them a call and said, look, is there any way you can get my friend James out of the circuit and to maybe the railway station? It's probably the quickest way to go, to get him from Milton Keynes to Watford. And they said, we are stuck in traffic. So the lovely Hugh comes back and he sees there's a little tension. He says, is everything all right? And James says, I've got to go and see a patient. Is there any way that your car or something could take us? And he goes, just give me a minute. So he gets on the phone. So the next thing that happens is he goes, my helicopter's waiting to take you. And James says, I'm sorry. And he says, my helicopter's going to fly you to the nearest airfield to your hospital. James is like, that's so sweet of you. So the next thing I see is James waving at me from this helicopter window. The thing flies off. He calls me at midnight that night. He goes, Manish, did today happen?
Yeah.
I don't actually believe today happened. I said, more importantly, how's your patient? Oh, there's nothing wrong with the patient. I said, well, how did you get from the field to the hospital? He said, well, the helicopter landed in this field. And there was a lovely old couple in a Ford Granada estate that saw the helicopter landing in this field. They pulled up and said, is everything okay? And I said, I'm a doctor. I need to get to Bupa Bushi. And they said, jump in. And they gave him a ride for the last 5 miles.
Wow.
So that was, he says, to this day, the most glamorous day of his life.
Love it.
That's
Love
a
it.
great
I met James. Was it James at Joe's thing?
Exactly. Was it James? That's the same James. James and I in the toilet with the poor lady who passed out, James. Yes.
Lovely.
We probably ought to explain why you were in the toilet with another gentleman based on your previous story, but we can do that.
We know what that story is, Manish. Don't worry, we're on short on time today. Neil with an N. Don't worry, you're not going to be accused of anything there. That was a previous piece of helpful service that Manish showed. Nothing nefarious there. Neil?
No, well, I've already done this story. I've only got one story, and I did it already. It's an upside down Bristol fighter.
Oh,
on the Warminster bypass. I mean, it's the only funny story I've got. I've told it already, and there's a lot I haven't said about it involving insurance claims. But anyway, it was all dealt with beautifully, and most importantly, the man who was upside down in a Bristol fighter is fine.
Was he stuck in it?
He was stuck in it.
Yeah, it was the gull wing.
If you have an SLS, so you have a proper gull wing as opposed to one made in a shed in Bristol, the SLS, of course, if it goes upside down, has got pneumatic things that fire the car.
Explosive bolts,
and you can get out. But in a Bristol fighter, which of course is much more stylish, you need a crowbar.
Yeah, or a lot of local friends.
Yes,
local muscle.
And one day I will share some interesting photos of that car upside down on the Warminster bypass. But anyway, that was a very special moment for me, which I hope doesn't happen again.
No. I hear Warminster is riddled with upside down cars these days. Something about it.
Well, all my father's family are in Warminster, so Warminster is quite a dear place for me. And I never thought I would have it upside down Bristol fighter there.
When I played league hockey, and that was my favourite thing 25 years ago, or a bit more, Warminster was the southernmost tip of where we would travel to. I said, love playing West Wilts down there. Right. I'm not going to tell you a car story. I'll tell you a random story. I've got lots of funny car stories. We can do another one of those. So I'll tell you about the night that I met Natalie Imbruglia.
Ooh.
This is classic. Anyone knows me knows that I've got... The one thing I'm worse at than organisation, just being a human being, is being anywhere near women. I'm utterly useless. So we'd finished filming one of those studio Top Gear things, and we were staying at the White City House, broadcasting house in White City. And excuse my snuffling, I'm struggling today. And anyhow, I was going to meet Paddy for a drink afterwards, and we were going to have a few bevies. And I think he was a bit delayed, so I decided to walk from my hotel room on that lovely sort of curved corridor to the bar upstairs. I was with my friend Vix, who's a makeup lady. She's a legend, Vix. And Vix has got one of those very comforting estuary accents. She's, oh my darling, she's just absolutely wonderful. I love her to bits. So, and she's in a room down the corridor, and we meet up and we walk along the corridor. And as we get to the sort of locked door that seals the accommodation bit of the hotel, this door pops open of the suite. I think it's the suite on the corner, and a head pokes around. It's Natalie Imbruglia, and she's utterly beautiful. And she, and we're like a yard away from her. And she goes, "Excellent, thank you. I won't do the accents. Thank you so much. This is my mum. Can you just pop her in a taxi downstairs? We haven't booked one. We just pop her into a taxi downstairs." And I went, "Okay, okay." And Vix in my ear went, "She thinks you're staff," and just started laughing because I was wearing a shirt. So I went, "I didn't know what to say. You're presented with someone who's one of the most beautiful women you've ever seen." And so I went, "Okay, yeah. Where does she need to go?" And she went, "Don't just she'll tell you. No, she's all right. I'll get her for you now." So she goes back in. Out comes, pushes her mummy out to me, and goes, "There you go." So Victor and I took Mummy and Brulia downstairs, spent 15 minutes talking to her, and to this day she thinks I'm a hotel porter at White City. So there you go. That's the night I met Natalie and Brulia, who still thinks that I am a hotel porter in the Soho House, White City.
You were torn on what to say.
That reminds me of when McLaren did that stupid big launch at Alexandra Palace in '99. And they had the Spice Girls there doing a little act on stage. Don't overdo it, McLaren. And David Coulthard and Mika Häkkinen were obviously presented to the crowd. And when David Coulthard went onto the stage and introduced himself, just as about to go on, and said, "Oh yeah, I'm one of the drivers." And they all turned to him and said, literally, "What time are you picking us up after the show?" Poor David.
Honestly, it happens more often than you think. I mean, obviously, I'm one of those people that I look a bit. I'm a chameleon. Wherever I go, I'm the wrong thing. If I'm in Chechnya, if I'm in Russia, I look like a Chechnyan. If I'm in southern USA, I look like a Mexican. I just look wrong. And the first studio recording I did for Top Gear, I went outside for a smoke because I was a bit nervous. And the security guard wouldn't let me back in. I was a presenter. He said, "No." Yeah, I said, "I'm a presenter." He went, "No, you're not. Yeah. You're not Jeremy, are you?" I went, "No, you're not read the papers. It's a bit different." Anyhow, moving on. Now this is tricky. And it's meant to be delivered with love. But who is the most annoying passenger you've ever had in a car with you? Chris Cooper's rubbing his hands. This might be directed at me. So we will start with Manish.
It's my wife. And you know what? For once on this podcast, I am just not going to elaborate. That's all you get.
Wow. It's been nice knowing you, Manish.
Thank you very much.
Chris Cooper.
It's got to be you.
Yeah.
It's got to be you.
Yeah.
There are two reasons. I'll pick two reasons. The first one is it's very annoying when you want you to be the passenger and you won't let me. You won't let you be the passenger. So when we were going to Germany, all the places we used to go to, it was great. We had some lovely wheels to enjoy on the way there. And you usually pick me up here on the farm and we sort of get on the road down there. And we said, okay, well, he can drive to Eurotunnel. Flexi Plus, which I hadn't bothered with that.
Yeah.
Go through Flexi Plus, get our little sandwiches in the little packet thing, go there. We sit on the train, having a little chat about, looking forward to our little trip away. And when you're getting through the Eurotunnel, you get the last bit of points across everything. We're nearly there. The dark windows are going to go light. We think nearly there. And then the voice says, "Return to your vehicles and be ready to disembark the train." And then some estuarinal voice will try the same thing in French.
Yeah.
"Bonjour, je m'appelle Nigel. Disembarquez votre car maintenant," or something like that. Anyway, so I think we're at that point now where, I might get a little go. Did I? When I occasionally did get a go, usually on the twisty bits in the dark, because he's tired, he won't engage. He'll just say, "Did you mean to lift off there?" When you've got a corner. Did you mean to lift off there? Or when I don't see somebody on the motorway, he said, Did you mean to nearly hit them? It's very dry. It's very... Chris, you have to close your ears here. People are seeing the real you now. I've always said this to you. This is the real version of Mr. Harris. The Top Gear version of Chris was another version. This is a real version. He's an irritatingly fast, clever, very quick-witted person. So when you do something ever so slightly wrong, it doesn't wade in. It's just really cutting, and it's bloody annoying.
Mr.
tell you
Cooper,
what,
I love you to bits.
Let me
Can I
jump in there 1 second, because I'll tell you one thing that he's just triggered in me a memory, is that if you spend enough time in a car with someone, you don't even need to say anything.
No, you don't. You bastard.
You can just move or even suggest a grin with the side of your mouth they can't see, and they'll go, I know.
Yeah.
And maybe that feeds slightly into what Manish was saying. If there's someone that you spend a lot of time in the car with, you get to the point where you have non-verbal issues. It doesn't even need to kick off, does it, Manish? Sorry to step on you.
No.
I wouldn't have it another way.
Chris, the very first time I went in a car with Mr. Harris, we were in Bologna when we went there. And of course, I'd never been in a car with Mr. Harris. And we were driving, and I thought he hadn't seen that we had to be in a different lane. And I sort of said to Chris, because I think this lane we're not allowed to go in. He very politely turned around and went, I do this for a living, Manish.
Yeah. Schoolboy error, Manish.
I mean, shortly afterwards, I stuffed it straight into a parked car. So, be careful about what you wish for. Neil Clifford, who is your most annoying passenger?
Well, I'm going with my wife.
Oh,
but
we've got to be very careful here, boys.
But I'm changing the word annoying to annoyed.
Ooh.
Clever.
Because I don't like being a passenger ever.
Yeah.
She doesn't mind being a passenger, which is lovely. She's the only passenger that, frankly, I like having in my car.
Noted.
And particularly our little, we have I think a lot of people, if you're into cars, you have this, your little Sunday afternoon routine. And I'm lucky enough to live in the countryside. So we've got about 7 different little loops, a little drive between 2:00 and 6:00, depending when the roast dinner is. And you say, should we go for a drive? And as long as it's not horribly raining or something, or even if it is, we probably would. And we say, should we do that loop or that loop or that loop? And it's just lovely. And we sit, and as you say, you don't have to talk much, but you can talk about, I don't know, the kids, the drama, the GCSEs, the mocks, the failed for the 4th time driving test theory, all the life shit that you want to talk about. And you do that, and you do your little loop, and I enjoy my little drive, and you listen to the nice bit of music or whatever. But the reason why I'm saying she was the most annoyed is my 458, we took it to Sicily.
Nice.
And we said we're going to go to Sicily, and wouldn't it be a dream to take a lovely 458 there, and we're going to do the Targa Florio. We're going to go there, win the event. And I shipped the car, and I went to Palermo, and we flew on BA to Palermo, and we got a cab to the place where all the lovely old cars were, and there was my car sat there with the man with the van, and it was all magic. And oh my God, I've dreamt of doing this forever. And you get in the car and you say, should we go for a little drive? Maybe we'll just go down to Cefalù and we'll have a little look around. And within 3 minutes of being on the lovely roads of Sicily, darling, please slow down. I don't like this. I don't like this. It's too steep on the left-hand side. I don't like these corners. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. I love her so much, but she's nervous of heights. She's nervous of corners. She's nervous of crashing. She's nervous of everything in a lovely way. I've got all that too, I suppose. That's why I drive quite slowly. And I thought, it's just such a shame that you're annoyed.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose.
You're annoyed and you're annoying. And that was just the situation. So therefore, we drove at about 3/10 for a week around Sicily. It was still lovely. Had some great photographs, great memories. But next time, if I do that, I probably will go on my own. Bless her.
Oh,
Bless her.
Jesus.
Bless her.
Okay.
Yeah,
She would want me to
she would want me to go on my own if we're going to drive around Sicily.
It is, sorry, Chris, go on.
Oh, go on.
It is possible to have, because I have a very similar relationship with Lynn. And last March, we had a weekend away in Scotland. We stayed in somewhere in Braemar. And we picked up a hire car from Aberdeen. And I don't know what it was, because I'm usually, if we drive fast, we get there sooner and that'd be more enjoyable. I don't know what it was, but something came over me. And I just decided I was going to drive in a sort of quite slow and considered. I let people pass. I would see people approaching from the rear. I'd indicate, slow down on the straight, not on a corner, let them pass. Pointed at things, pointed out things, said, Lynn, which is a nice shop there. Would you like to stop? Oh, there's a shop we've passed back there. Would you like to go back?
Yeah.
Stop. And we got to Braemar. She said, are you feeling all right? That was a really enjoyable journey. I don't quite know what to say. Can't win.
No.
You won. You won.
Well, I think it was. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that Lynn enjoyed being a passenger with me rather than, oh, God.
Yeah.
He's
Don't
racist.
you love the way this question morphed from basically describing somebody annoying to be with to tell us about your marital life in a car?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's an important place because
I agree.
because you're talking not at each other. You've got the front. You can just chat away, and it's lovely.
I think as a litmus test of that part of your life, if you are married or in a relationship, if you can coexist in a car, not just that, but actually enjoy being in the car together, you're probably in a very good place, aren't you? I think
that's right. Yeah,
or any relationship actually, because you're cooped up. The sad part of this for me, serious face on, is that I think I drove my father in a car twice, my late father, and it was purgatory. And I fear I might be as bad as that with my eldest son because I worry about them so much and I want to help him. But my father wasn't really a very good driver, but he made it very clear that he thought everything that I did was substandard in the car, and I hated it. So I remember collecting from an airport once in my Peugeot 106 XSI to help him out and get him back. And within a minute we were in an argument. That's the way. It's one of those frictional relationships. But I don't want to dwell on that stuff because it's not amusing and it's just part of life.
But I think if you're with your mates and you want to talk about challenges in your life, help you need, or vice versa, the car is the perfect place because you're not doing eye contact, and you can have a much more open conversation with less pressure by looking out the window and getting some help on stuff.
I totally agree. The number of times I've ended up with someone that is, I might know them quite well, and I build up over time, and I'll think to myself, now I'll drop it and I'll go, Johnny, why are you such a cunt?
I met that, Johnny. You're right, though. He is.
I think, looking in the mirror, I'm easily the most annoying passenger that anyone's ever driven with. No one comes close. I'm on with the heated seat to get the driver. I'm on with the passenger heated seat if I can do it to do that to the driver. I'm moving backwards and forwards. I love making the car cabin somewhere that's fun and a bit frictional. And I love being with my kids. I love asking totally inappropriate questions in front of their friends, just so that I love the car. I love being in it. Therefore, I do think I am the most annoying person.
Yes,
I have to be the most annoying passenger.
You are Ken Dodd.
Oh, just absolutely. I mean, I love it. I used to do all terrible things like put bits of Marmite on seats so people got Marmite stains on their trousers.
So grown up.
I can remember once having a work colleague we were about to go somewhere. He's wearing chinos. Just as we got out of the car, we're going to this dinner. Just poured a load of water on his crotch. Chinos wet up beautifully. He went, "Why did you do that?" I said, "It's obvious. It'll look like you've wet yourself." And he went, "Why would you do that?" I said, "Well, it's because it's funny." And so all of this stuff. No one here is smiling on this.
No, we are. You should never grow up. It's a trap.
But I do. I love being annoying in the car, but then I think I take people being annoying quite well. I do think I don't mind taking some back.
Do you remember when we had that S-Class? It was one of our trips to the Ring, and you picked me up from Brussels Airport. And from the moment you picked me up from Brussels Airport, the whole weekend until Sunday, and it never got less funny to me, I did treat you like you were the taxi driver. I would say, "I'll be back in 5 minutes," and I would just jump out, and I might have even offered you money. Nobody else found it funny. I thought it was just hilarious.
I would have taken money.
Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
two uni friends that whenever one would drive the other, he would always walk and get in the back door. And,
I got in the back door. Yeah.
and there's that gag never tires. It's wonderful, that gag. Right, we've got to move on because one of us has got to go
Time is
home.
tight.
So, Porsche.
Ooh.
I haven't got the numbers, and I'm sure either Chris or Manish or Neil will furnish the numbers. But Porsche made a public statement this week that it is going to, I think in business terminology, pivot back towards the internal combustion engine because its electric experiment has proven to be a little bit disastrous. Taycan sold well initially. Sales are down 20-something% now.
49.
49%, Jesus Christ. And this planned Boxster came, and there's a lot of leaking about the fact that it's not what they want it to be. Should we be cheering? Should we feel sorry for them? Should we be buying Porsche shares? Neil, tell me what you think.
Well, they've decided to invest 800 million euros, I think is the number, back into internal combustion engine. So it's a big
And hybrid.
Yeah, and hybrid. Yeah. So it's a big I mean, look, I think it's good news, isn't it? They're smelling the old coffee. You can't. In my world, I'm talking about shoes. You can't create things that are worse than the things that came before, but are twice as expensive, and expect you to have a commercial success that people don't like. Why would you buy something if you don't like it as much as the old ones? You keep your old one, don't you?
Yeah.
It's the same with shoes. It's probably the same with cars. So I think, every week now there's a story of a sort of bit of a moment of change, isn't there? And of course we all want to have low emissions, no emissions. We're not sort of anti that, but I suppose my take on it is, which is obviously a complicated take. It's not the cars are the problem. We probably need to just push ahead with the technology around fuel, because it's not going to work, is it? No one gets, there's not the infrastructure. They're too expensive. They're too heavy. Put aside the fact that whether they're joyful or not, maybe we're a very niche group of people that actually enjoy driving for driving's sake, the manual versus auto. We're probably 5% of the population talking about these things. That's why we haven't got 17 million people listening to this podcast quite yet. But I think Porsche have to make things that people want to buy. Otherwise, they're not going to last very long. So it's the issue is their net profitability, I think, has halved in 5 years, from 20% net earnings to 10.
The margin's down. The target margin was 20% at flotation IPO in 23, and that's now under 10.
That's right.
Chris, spreadsheet Cooper, what are your thoughts?
So I think they're in a bit of a pickle. I think they're in some senior people getting fired pickle rather than, oh my God, are they going to disappear or need a rescue pickle? But it's still quite a big pickle.
Yeah.
The 800 million is actually not a huge amount of money.
That's like a rear tail light.
It's sort of developing a couple of rear tail lights and a sort of an Visac pack, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the problem is that, I mean, what they call it an investment. I think it's sort of operating expenditure rather than capital expenditure in just retooling to make for more of the vehicles to be petrol. They're in closing jaws. They've said that the overall strategy, which has got to be a progression towards EV, because the rules haven't. In your world, in shoes, Neil, it'd be a bit like a regulator saying to you, you can still make all the shoes you want, but you can't use leather or any other man-made fabrics.
Yes.
And best of luck. So will it make it? I mean, in the short term, it's great because I think maybe a part of it is I've asked Cameron to do a bit of digging this because I've been literally back to back all day. And he said Porsche SE, which is a family investment vehicle, owes about 5.2 billion in debt obligations, in part mainly because of the acquisition of Porsche AG and the Volkswagen shares back in early 2020s. They need money now. They're writing off on their impairments last week. Share price went on 8% on Friday. So they need money now. So there's clearly tension within Porsche. CFO and the sales director, Bloomberg, are saying Porsche are making plans to get rid of them. This is at some point a rock and a hard place, or an instoppable force and an immovable object will come together. Mrs. Shit, may I introduce you to Mr. Fan, is coming soon. And we want to buy the cars, that we want to buy. They want to sell those cars, but they're facing increasing pressure because of the regulatory constraints. So they've had to do something because they need to make money. They need to make more money in 25 than they thought they were if they just carried on where they were. But fingers crossed.
Manish?
Well, I just wondered, just in the same way that you say that we might be a very small subset of kind of humanity in cars, whether Porsche is a particular case in point in cars in general. In the sense that I met someone who I thought was an extremely bright engineer on Friday, and he said perhaps the thing that people haven't really appreciated is not that we don't need EVs, but that if you really look at the way the world is rigged, certainly Europe and America, EVs will top out at a certain percentage of total cars, given what they can do right now and charging infrastructure.
Yes.
And if you think about Porsche as a very small subset of all cars, why would that subset, performance, looks, feel, steering, you name it, why would that subset feel this kind of massive, dramatic urge to embrace maybe a more lower common denominator technology? Maybe, the ultimate place for EVs is very urban or short urban to rural routes. And that's exactly what a Porsche perhaps has not been built for. And I just had one other thing, which is, they always talk about politics being the art of the possible. And, I think Chris has hit the nail on the head. He's told Neil to make shoes with nothing man-made, but they also can't be leather. So what Neil's got to do is he's got to go from being a very successful CEO of a well-known brand that makes shoes and handbags. He's got to actually transform from that to becoming a magician. And I think that's the problem with politicians. I've never, ever done anything in my life. I mean, Senna used to say very famously, nothing easy has ever come to me in life. And all the things in my life that I've done that I think were worth doing, were any form of achievement, I've really had to work my arse off. There was no quick way of doing it. And I think the problem with EVs is that politicians are always looking for the quick lever. Because if you can find a quick lever and a quick slogan, you get the X in your name. And I think we've been party to a world where politicians have gone, EVs, that's it. Now we don't have to think about anything else. Let's just push them. And, the combinations of incentives are fine, but there have been massive disincentives, which we now see. And I think it's a pretty lethal combination for Porsche, especially. You've got this kind of, you are just a bunch of evil bastards if you drive or build any kind of sports car. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll try to square the circle by massively upping the number of electric cars we make. But you're fundamentally trying to lift yourself up by your bootlaces. I just don't see how you rise. So there is my answer.
Yes, I agree with all of you. I think the part of this story that grates so much for me as a car enthusiast is I'm not sure this is Porsche's fault. Now, I think if you make a mistake, and as a car journalist, obviously I only look at the automotive world because I'm that myopic. But if you're a successful car company and you make a bad car, or if you're a big car company, you get arrogant. For example, if you're Ford and you make the Escort Mark IV, which is lazy, which is taking the piss out of customers, and suddenly your revenues go down, and then you tell me a year later that you're licking your wounds. Tough shit. You took a gamble to take the piss out of the buying public, didn't work, go back to the drawing board. Porsche has just played by the rules. It was given a totally flawed set of rules that were they were full of doom as they were delivered. And I this is a non-political podcast, but effectively, the European Union has killed its car industry. And we're watching it happen step by step. And I'll stop short of the word anger, but I watch it just with bemusement now. I cannot understand what's going on. And it's a wreckage. And Porsche is at the pinnacle of that industry.
Yes. Yeah.
It makes the best cars. Its technology percolates throughout the VW group. You know, Weissach is the hub of VW's tech empire, not just Porsche's. And also, Porsche has been the bank for the VW group for a long time, and you know they're opening the doors now and finding not as many pennies left.
Yes.
It's really sad to see, and you know normally it'd be easy to sort of I point the finger at a bit of hubris, but I'm not seeing it at all. I just think they've tried really hard to play by the new rules, and it's not worked, and they've got to go back, sort of pivot back to ICEs, and then of course they'll get hammered by everyone saying, "Well, you've gone backwards." What are they supposed to do? They're a company.
They've got to sell cars this year. Well, they can. I think if we were in an analyst call, if we were in the All In podcast, and we just all been in the analyst call, I don't know what any of those words actually mean, but anyway, we might be talking a little bit about one or two execution problems. Did the second generation Taycan have to be so expensive? And actually not that different, really. That might have been a small misstep, but otherwise, fundamentally, you're right. They tried to do what they thought they had to do. They remain committed to the strategy, which is by less than 5 years' time, in theory, they can't sell any ICE cars apart from presumably quite heavily biased hybrid cars. Pure ICE will have gone. And that decision was made 2-3 years ago. That was done. Factories won't exist to do that. So I agree. It's a car.
Lads, we're running out of time. I'm gonna push back our £23,000 car to next week, if you don't mind. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Because I want to do 80s F1 driver, and we need to get Neil back home because he's had a very, very long day. So, the last question I posed to my learned colleagues was: you're a Formula One driver in the 1980s. Who do you want to be? Brackets. You can't be Ayrton Senna. So let's start with Neil Clifford.
I just love Nicky Lauda. I'd be Nicky Lauda. I think he's everything I'm not. Brave as hell. Precise as hell.
Fast.
Disciplined, organised.
Oh, you're disciplined and organised.
I am to a degree. I really, I've got the old ADHD, and I have to control myself. I have to, otherwise I go pear shaped really quickly. But you've got to choose someone that's driving for Ferrari, in my view, because back then, even now, but back then it was the seat to have, the car, the Enzo, the Maranello, the red, the noise, everything's just gorgeous. I think it's good to choose someone that didn't get killed in a car. Obviously, he almost did get killed in a car, but he lived to a great old ripe age. He had immense fun. I think underneath that very Austrian, dry personality, I never had the good fortune to meet him, but I get the sense he was very humorous, very clever, very... just a wonderful character. So I would definitely be Nicky Lauda.
Love it. Manish, I don't know where you begin with this.
Well, if you can't be Senna, then you're into a very problematic space. So I just decided...
Is your name on this week's podcast any clue?
Well, exactly. So I was thinking this. If you look at that famous four shot, it was Senna, Prost, Piquet, and Mansell. And Neug. The bottom line is Senna blew the others away and they didn't enjoy it. So I don't want to be any of those because I'd just be really chippy as fuck for the rest of my life. You add Nicky Lauda. You add Nicky Lauda to that. You have to go through that inferno, Neil. I don't have the balls. So I don't want to go through that inferno. So I'm not going to do that either. Yeah. If you add Rosberg to that, you've got a really annoying son coming in 20 years. So I don't want to be Rosberg either in the 80s. So you've got to be somebody who's been beaten by Senna, but you've driven for Ferrari. And you've got to be at peace with yourself. You've got to be a Grand Prix winner. You've got to be considered cool and fast. And you've got to have had definitely top 3 sex lives in Formula One. And that's Gerhard Berger. That is who you are.
Right.
You are Gerhard. You're a player. You're really quick. You were in the Senna bracket, actually, for quick before the accident at Imola. You're a really nice human being. You've got great kids. You've actually got an amazing life right now. And you're smart as hell, actually. And the other little bit of detail that a lot of people don't know about Gerhard is how few races he did before he found himself in Formula One. If you've got a talent bracket, he's right there, top 2 or 3% of talents, I think. I love him. That's who I'd be, Gerhard.
Yes.
It's a very good answer. I think actually his legacy gets cooler the older he gets.
Yeah.
He's one of those drivers. Chris Cooper.
It's kind of obviously tempting to say Nigel because he was my hero for most of the 80s. And I absolutely vividly remember where I was and how I felt on the evening or early hours of the morning when in 1986 in Adelaide, his tyre burst and his championship disappeared. And the following year, he had the accident in Suzuka and that championship disappeared and they didn't quite get it in 91. So he could have been a 5-time world champion. I'm not sure that Senna did blow him away in that period. He was clearly blowing away is probably overstating it, notwithstanding how brilliant Senna was. By now, most listeners to this podcast would have worked out I'm not very cool. I'm a bit of a contrarian. And I don't go with or get the fashions or the fads. Yes. In case the listeners in black and white, Neil's just held up a yes to all of that. Absolutely. That is all true. So my first hero of the 80s, F1 driver, was John Watson.
Oh, nice.
Northern Irishman. He had won. One of the reasons I like him, though he had this in the 70s, he had an amazing beard. When he first was, I think he won his first race at Austrian Grand Prix in a Penske. In fact, Penske's only F1 win. Those listening in America will obviously know the business of the captain, Roger Penske, and all his success, enormous success that he's had. They used to build Formula One cars down in a workshop in a factory in Poole in Dorsetshire, in England's Worcestershire. And he said to Roger, if I win a Grand Prix tomorrow, I'll shave my beard off. Or Roger might have said to him, if you win, you're shaving that bloody beard off, because he was American and quite proper and he thought beards were, countercultural and hippie and blah, blah, blah. So John Watson went on to be, in the early 80s with McLaren, just an unbelievably fast, committed, dogged driver. Some of his wins, I think he still holds a record for the win from the furthest back on a grid. It was either Detroit or Long Beach. Long Beach. Way, way back. I remember in those days you couldn't watch F1. You got a few highlights.
No.
He was just my hero. I met him occasionally because he was commentating. He still commentates on what was Blancpain GTs. So Chris, you and I would have bumped into him a few times when we were doing Blancpain. A lovely, proper enthusiast, still enthusiastic for the sport, speaks his mind in an incredibly passionate, uncompromising way. So I would have loved him.
Can you remember who his teammate was in the 80s?
He had Nicky Lauda in McLaren.
Exactly. He kept Nicky extremely honest in that McLaren.
Yeah, they both didn't qualify for I think it was early in the MP4, the Ron Dennis period. They both didn't qualify at Monaco.
Yeah.
And the mechanics, who was a bit of a bumpy period he had, and the mechanics on the side of the car, where they had the name of the driver, put John What's Wrong on the side of the car because he was getting slightly minty with them as to this doesn't work and whatever. John Watson, if you're listening, John, you're my hero.
He's a
wonderful.
Cool guy.
I love that. And by the way, I've just looked up on my telephone. If you want to see him at his best or hear him at his best in commentary, there was a guy called Vadim Kogai.
Oh,
who somehow got an international race license and entered a Blancpain race at Monza.
Yeah.
And he kept falling off. And John Watson's commentary, as he becomes more and more exasperated by how poor this guy's driving is a masterclass in commentaries. He's trying not to swear, but he's already gets angry with how terrible this guy's driving is. Go to that. We'll put a link up for you now.
Put a link up. That's brilliant. That one.
Guy. So for me, the early 80s is fascinating for me because I didn't really start watching it till probably 83, 84, 8, 9 years old. Before that, you don't really know what you're watching. Apart from it was, it was JPS, Nigel, but I didn't really have a favourite driver other than Nigel. I was later in life, you're fascinated by the drivers that you just missed. And there's one for me. I met him at one of those GP Masters races, and that was Alan Jones. Now, I'll tell you why I was fascinated by Alan Jones is because he seemed to garner the respect of, I think, the hardest-nosed bastard ever in Formula One, and that was Frank Williams.
Yeah.
Frank Williams didn't really have a very nice word to say about anyone, but he thought Alan Jones was the boss. Now, that might just be because he won him his first world championship, but there was, I don't know, I just love that no-nonsense. I got the sense he was massively strong. He could wrestle cars round. And I like the idea of a no-nonsense Aussie F1 driver. He also coined one of the best quotations. I might be misquoting it. I think he was talking about a Lola or a Brabham or something in '86. He described it as being as useful as an ashtray on a motorcycle. Which I thought was a very good quotation. So for me, I was going to go Keke, actually, because there's something about a long-haired Keke with a fag on.
That's true.
Having just done 150 mile an hour average, lap speed around Silverstone, you think they were cut from different cloth.
They were.
But I'm going to go
160 and he had a slow puncture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd go. Yeah, I think Alan Jones is fascinating. Right. Let's move on very quickly to our two-car garage, which is, I'll just read it out for you. It's got a West Country theme. The revolution has happened. Onward. Mr. Harris has found himself in the unlikely position of sheriff of his beloved Bristol. Times are tough. He has a £100,000 budget to show his authority and equip himself suitably with 2 used vehicles of less than 3 tons. One vehicle for high-speed chases around the city's narrow streets. The other must be suitably high ground clearance for the odd off-highway skirmish. Vehicles are scarce in this post-revolutionary world, so must be imported. To add a sense of unpredictability, they must not be available in the UK. American and Japanese imports are his preferred sources due to ships landing easily straight into the Avonmouth docks, which are on Sheriff Harris's patch. Don't mess with the Sheriff. Let's start with Neil with an N.
Okay, cool. This was a difficult one. I love those little, and there's a special word, and I can't remember it, and I didn't have time to research it. The little Japanese cars that are boxes.
K-cars.
Yeah, K cars. I love those. I always wanted a Nissan Cube. I always wanted the Honda one. I was looking at those today, thinking I'm definitely going to choose one of them. There's a new one called the Honda N Box.
Yeah.
I just think they're magical little things. They're little Rubik's cubes with wheels. And
I shriek Sheriff, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't give a fuck. I just think they're great.
One day, Sheriff.
I'll put a little blue light on top or something.
Oh, that will do everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, and then you've got to juxtapose it, right? You've got your little box thing that you can spin around, and you can take your mates around, or pick up the bloody takeaway Indian and take it home, and then you want something sporty, don't you? And I always think it would be, and I'm in America a lot at the minute, so I see a lot of these. The new Corvette. I don't think you can really buy them here, right?
You can.
Can you?
Yeah, there's someone's selling them up north.
Oh.
Yeah, but are they anyway?
New one.
Yeah, the new one, not the ZR one that's on piston heads at the minute. It's like 170 bloody thousand quid, which would be like 100 grand in 3 weeks' time. It doesn't need 1,000 horsepower.
No.
But I think, frankly, it looks like an SF90, but better.
It does.
So, and it's like a tenth of the price.
That's a very good analogy.
And so Ferrari basically copied it, didn't they, for the SF90?
Badly.
Yeah, all that. So I think one of those, I don't know what they are, 50 grand, 60 grand, something like that, almost new. Looks cool. Probably never going to break down. They're pretty robust American cars. Everyone thinks it's a Ferrari anyway, so you've saved like 250,000 quid.
I'm loving it. Very, very pragmatic, Neil, and you'll be a force to be reckoned with in your law enforcement role. Chris Cooper.
So I think this is quite important because there's clearly been a revolution. Things are tough in Bristol and probably the Badlands of North Somerset and South Gloucestershire and everywhere around. So I think the first vehicle, or can I say first of all, thank you very much to Guy Walker one of our correspondents, who sent this suggestion in, I think, way back in October. So thank you very much, Guy.
That's good.
Keep sending in true car garage suggestions for us. So I think the first vehicle, particularly because it's Sheriff Harris, one for the mean streets of Bristol, it's got to be a bike.
Oh,
It's got to be a bike.
Wow. Okay. He's got
Which
two
bike? Which bike? Nothing says I've arrived, I'm in fucking charge round here, than a big Harley Davidson Phantom custom bike with
yes.
holsters down the side for semi-automatic Beretta 10-round shotguns. Little seat on the back for Pip.
I got this funny image of Zed from Pulp
Yeah.
Fiction at the moment, which is worrying me slightly.
Zed.
Sheriff Harris. So that's the first vehicle.
Yeah.
Second vehicle, because they've both got to be imported. So it's got to be, and it's got to be a car not available here because it's imported. And I like the touch of the Avonmouth docks because that is literally just down the road. Avonmouth, just on the way to Gordano.
Yeah.
And I think you'd have a Land Cruiser FJ70.
Oh, they're nice. Yeah.
A Land Cruiser FJ70.
Oh.
Manish is not happy. Wonder what Manish chose.
Because that will survive not just the revolution, but the apocalypse.
For sure.
That's what I do.
I'm loving it. It makes total sense. Manish, what are you going to go for?
Well, I always thought of Sheriff Harris as a bit of a muscle car man, actually. And I thought, I'm not going to go American and I'm not going to go Japanese. I think the narrow streets of Bristol, I saw this, and this would make Starsky wince. Can you see that?
Oh,
Is that a
That
66 Charger?
No, it's a 1969 Holden Monaro.
Oh, so hold on. Oh, wow.
Come on, an Aussie muscle car. We've got to
Yeah.
see you in this on the streets of Bristol. One of these went for, I think it was 60,000 Aussie dollars. So 30 odd thousand pounds. I could see you in that, in exactly those colours with a
Definitely.
little red light.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think Mr. Cooper was absolutely on it. I think has to be the FJ Cruiser. Look at this one I found for not that much money. Look at it, white.
Yeah, that's the retro one. Yeah.
Exactly, the
Yeah.
retro one, the FJ, and you just put a big orange stripe down the side.
Yeah.
Police, a little badge, a little bar with blue and red lights on the top. That's you. That is you.
You're all right, but you're all wrong.
I knew it.
Right. There are two things that need to be covered off with this particular scenario. First of all, you just have to buy whatever Raptor you can buy, 150 Raptor,
yeah.
because that is law enforcement. On road, off road. I've had one in the UK for a couple of years. They're a bit big, but my lord, I wouldn't want to have one chasing me because they're not getting away from you on any terrain. They should equip
good.
all police forces with them because you're not, the moment when they go into a park, you're going through the wall into the park and you're catching them. So it's an F-150 Raptor. I'd like the EcoBoost. I had the EcoBoost one. I think you get one of those for about $50,000.
They're good.
So they're great cars. And because there's some Japanese being mentioned in here, this podcast should never pass up the opportunity to share some great Japanese English car names. So I have decided to go for this little red thing here. We'll put a picture up. That there. That for me, it'll get into any gap. And on the back, it says it's a Mitsubishi Active Urban Sandal. That's what it's called, a Mitsubishi Active Urban Sandal. Japanese English car names are the finest in the world. So I've got a Raptor, and also I think people will smile at that car. They won't feel threatened. Law enforcement should either scare the shit out of you or make you feel like you're having a hug. Nothing in between.
You can do both. You can do both with that. Yeah.
Anyone want to share any quick music before Neil has to run back home?
Yes, I've got one.
Oh, yes.
Go on.
This year, Cyndi Lauper is doing her global farewell tour because she's doing it now because she thinks she won't be doing all the stuff that she loves doing in a few years' time. So Cyndi Lauper, who's in the UK at the moment, I haven't got tickets, but it'd be fantastic to see her. I drove all night. Roy Orbison song, but her cover of that. When we were growing up, who didn't have that song on late at night, driving back from mates or your first girlfriend or whatever it was? I drove all night by Cyndi Lauper.
Okay.
In the car, Mega.
Manage.
I'm going to go for a little bit of tragedy. Philip Glass from the film The Hours, and it's a piece of music called, sounds very benign, I'm Going to Make a Cake.
Oh.
And it's a beautiful, heartbreaking, heartrending wonderful piece of music.
I'm totally distracted because I think is it Cyndi Lauper that's doing her solo bit in the live recording for We Are the World, and Michael Jackson just watches on in bemusement as she squeaks into the microphone. He's just there. His face just goes, "What am I doing here with these talent?"
How did I end up here?
Yeah, but
Where's Madonna?
Yes, Neil Clifford.
Talking of Roy Orbison, bit of a DJ link.
Yeah.
I was at Mercedes-Benz Classic Long Beach, Los Angeles, 10 days ago, and I was shown Roy Orbison's. We put a proper picture up. Mercedes-Benz 600.
Oh.
That he ordered it new in 1972, black, and a guy has had it restored for 2 years. Just the most gorgeous bloody thing I've ever seen in my life. So music. There's a new Led Zeppelin film.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it. But I've got a very, very good friend called James who literally is obsessed with Led Zeppelin and talks about it on our WhatsApp group every single night. And he said, you've got to go and see it. It's amazing. And he recommended a song for me called Babe, I'm Not Gonna Leave You, which is actually, I played it for the first time last night. And it's really, really good. And Led Zeppelin, obviously, are brilliant and underrated. Well, not underrated. They're obviously highly rated because they're mega. But even for me, who's quite old, I don't really remember Led Zeppelin in period. But now when you listen to some of those tracks, you're like, oh, my God, that's the best British brand ever, ever, ever. So, Babe, I'm going to miss you, Led Zeppelin.
I've been on a bit of a search for wacky music. You know, sometimes you listen to a tune and think, I can't believe this works. It's a random collection of sounds. What genius managed to get these together? Sometimes the Flaming Lips do that for me. I just think this is just so bizarre. Yoshiki and the robots, whatever it is. If you listen to Peter Gabriel's Games Without Frontiers,
oh my God,
what's going on there? That's genius as sound. I just don't. It's so brilliant. But can you imagine sitting down and going, "Well, I've got this idea." It's just go and listen to that in the car tomorrow. It's a great.
It's got that line, hasn't it? Hans plays with Lottie. Lottie plays with Joe.
I know.
It has some extraordinary lyrics.
Yeah, the whole thing is. We should talk about it every day. That song is that good.
Yeah. Well, I think there's great music. There's really amazing music, and then there's music like that, which is Bohemian Rhapsody or Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick. There's 20 or 30 amazing songs that are just beyond every other song in the world, and that is one of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Cyndi Lauper. I'm uncool. I'm uncool.
Very good timing, Mr. C. By the way, we're on a push for merch. If you hear anything that people say, utterances that you think are quotable, please leave them in the comments section because I never watch what I record, and it'd be great. I've got one from today actually. I'll close. Manish has given me an idea for our next T-shirt, which is lovely. I didn't know that a grown man could fall in love with an inanimate object. That's a T-shirt for you straight away, Manish. So I'd like to say thank you to Manish, to Chris Cooper, to Neil with an N. Sorry we're a mixture of unwell and in a hurry, but it's as ever an absolute pleasure boring you with our rubbish. Bye-bye.